All right, everybody, welcome back to the Heath Barn Hoopcast. It has been a few months since I put out my last episode. A minute, as the kids say. To be honest, I have been coaching a basketball team. Shout out Lady Raiders. And I kind of got a one-track mind when it came to that and other things going on at the school, things like that. So I wanted to kind of wait till our season was over to get back into this, get back into the podcast. So our season is over, and Illinois men's basketball season is in full swing. So I think it's a good time to start cranking out these episodes again with these great former Illini players. So we are back. We are back to doing them once or twice a week, starting tonight. If you'll go back to the first episode, I had all-time scoring leader Deion Thomas. And then I had part one with all-time steals and assists leader at the University of Illinois, Bruce Douglas. So you need to go back and listen to part one if it has been a while, because, again, I haven't put an episode out in a while. But we're going to pick right up here with part two with Bruce Douglas. This is an amazing episode. He talks about, we get into that horrible Kentucky game when in the Final Eight, when they had to play at Kentucky in the NCAA tournament in the Final Eight, which is crazy to think about. But talk about that for a while. He talks about his teammates that meant so much to him during his time at Illinois. He talks about Coach Henson and the other coaches. Talks a little bit about his time in the NBA after his college career was over. And most importantly now, about the last 10 minutes of this episode are excellent. He talks about what he's up to now. He's a pastor and gets into some of the greatest blessings in his life and what led him down that path. And it's just really, really good. Very, very inspirational the last 10 minutes or so. And my son Stevie sneaks in at the end to ask him a question like we always do. So great episode again. Great guests coming up as well. Bruce Douglas is this episode, but you can keep your eyes out, eyes peeled, ears peeled, whatever the heck, because this is a podcast. You can listen for, we got Michael Finke coming up, Tony Weisinger, Marcus Liberty, and so on and so on. So Nate Mast, Rich McBride, I'm trying to think, Jens Kujawa, Marcus Griffin, TJ Wheeler, so on and on and on. So a lot of great episodes coming up, but just sit back and enjoy and listen to all-time Illini great Bruce Douglas here on the Heath Barn Hoopcast. Okay, we're going to get into your Illinois career here some, but do you want to talk about something that's probably going to aggravate you first and then get into fun stuff, or do you want to talk about happy stuff and then get into something to aggravate you after that?
It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want to start with, either one of them.
Okay. Now, when you were in college, I was young. I started really remembering around 85, probably. I was 7 then. Okay. So, but people still talk about this and everything. 4 NCAA tournaments, all 4 years you were there, won 95 games, your 4 years, everything else. But do you care if we talk about that game in the Final 8?
Oh, that's fine, man. Yeah, the
Okay.
Kentucky.
I didn't know if it still stung or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game, but yeah, we can talk about that for sure. It was,
Well, first of all, to people that maybe a little bit younger than us, explain how you guys had to have a road game in the Final 8 of an NCAA tournament, because now that just seems crazy. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, then it was a little different because you didn't have as many teams in the tournament. But, I mean, to think that you would ever be playing a regional championship, and we had played Kentucky earlier that year, but to think that you would be playing a regional championship to go to the Final Four in not just any gym, but in Rupp Arena where there's 22,000 fans, and to think that that wouldn't make a difference is just ludicrous. I mean,
Yes.
even when we were playing at the time, we didn't think nearly as much of it because we were excited, and we had played Kentucky before. They beat us by a basket at our gym, so we knew we could beat them. But playing on somebody's floor is definitely a disadvantage.
Yeah. I just feel like when people bring that up now, like it just blows my mind having to play on the road, and everything. But again, like you said, though, I'm sure you guys at the time, it wasn't that big of a deal, and you're probably confident. You guys were 26 and 4 going into that game, I think, or something like
Yeah,
that. So I'm sure
yeah.
you're feeling good about no matter who you're playing or where you're playing. So but
No question. I mean, and I mean, they were a great team. We surely thought we could beat them, but yeah, you don't want to play a game of that magnitude. And I'm glad, and of course they changed the rule after that game that year. But yeah, teams today know it's very difficult to win on the road against good teams when they're at home. And so Kentucky was a great team, no question about it. But 22,000 people definitely can influence a game.
right, yeah, that's um, okay. Well, we got that part out of the way, so that's good. So now let's talk about some other stuff. You, like I said, those 4 years you played, 95 wins. So you're on great teams all 4 years. Can you maybe discuss, maybe talk about some of your teammates from that era that fans may not be aware of? Teammates you played with. I know them, but some people a little
Sure,
bit younger than us. So if want to go
sure,
ahead with that.
sure. I'll say this before I move on with the Kentucky game. Of course, everybody knows the controversial call, and
Yes.
and I think that it was definitely a travel. But when you're playing on someone's home floor, that makes a difference when it gets late in the game. That call didn't change. That is not the call that lost the game. We even at the time said, we had opportunities to make other plays, to make other shots. But what you don't want to have is when it comes down to the last 15 or 20 seconds to have a call missed or to be, or to be in a position where you got 22,000 people screaming at you. It's only normal that you might be influenced by that. But that call, surely I live with it today, and I think, man, if we could have got that call, it may have changed. But it was a great game. Kentucky they deserved to win that day. We had some other opportunities we could have executed and probably won that game. So now,
Yeah.
during my career, listen, my freshman year, Derek Harper, and a lot of people know him because had a long NBA career, was a great player. It was great playing with him. But Ephraim Winters, we came in my freshman year with probably the best recruiting class in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Ephraim Winters, who was a great player, who I owe, a ton of gratitude because he caught a lot of my lobs and a lot of my assists, probably 3/4 of them was to him.
Yeah.
Because he was a great dunker. He had great hands, a great shooter, just a great player. And, it was such a lot of fun playing against Ephraim. We all came in as freshmen, so we learned together. Ephraim, was a great rebounder, great scorer, and just a great teammate. He's a great guy. And so we had a great environment, and a great team. And of course, me and Ephraim was first team All Big Ten my sophomore year. Of course, that was co-player of the year myself in the Big Ten that year.
Great.
So, so we had, we really, I think, we kind of peaked in that second year. Doug Altenberger, another great player, just a hard-nosed, great shooter. I couldn't ask for a better backcourt mate to play with. Doug was just one of those guys that just did the things that you needed to get done, that you don't get to notice all the time. He set great picks. He always guarded bigger players.
Yeah.
And he was just, there wasn't a loose ball that he didn't try to get. And
Yeah.
so that attitude and that toughness he brought to the team was just, it was something that you had to have.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of intangibles. You got to have guys like that on great teams. So yeah.
Oh, no question. Quinn Richardson was probably the shining light that year that we went down to Kentucky. We won the Big Ten that year, tied it with Purdue. But Quinn was a fifth year senior, and I remember Coach Henson coming to Quinn and asking Quinn, because we were a young team, if he wouldn't mind sitting out and coming back for a fifth year so we could have more leadership. And that's the
Hmm.
kind of leader Quinn was. Quinn was a great leader. Believe it or not, Quinn was the strongest player on our team. He benched about 325. That was more than anybody on our team at the time. He was just one of those just consistent, hard nosed. Quinn did, what you asked him to do, and he was always where he was supposed to be. And so he was a big piece of that team that won the Big Ten, because we had a very unselfish team, and I think everybody's roles kind of fell in place that year, and so that made it a great year. And so it was great having Quinn, who was a great shooter, along with Doug, and then Ephraim in the middle, and then of course Big G. A lot of people know George Montgomery. George was just, we called him the enforcer. George was a 6'8" center. He spent most of his time going up against 7-footers, 6'10". Of course, he had Ephraim behind to block shots, but George controlled the paint. He kept big men out of the paint. He was a great post defensive player, great rebounder, and George he was just a hard-nosed, hard-working player. And so you could count on George, cleaning up a lot of the garbage inside, as well as just slowing down big men from the other teams. And so it was a joy playing with George and Ephraim and Doug, and then of course part of that recruiting class, me, Ephraim, Doug, and Scott Mintz,
Hmm.
who came off the bench, but Scott was a great shooter, great player. Scott started, of course, some of his career, but Scott was a great big man, great passer. For a big man, he could put the ball on the floor, had a nice, sweet touch, and so and could rebound the ball as well. So we had a lot of talent. And then when um, you add Anthony Welch into the mix, a 6'9" swing man who could run like a deer, jump, to the moon, and handle the ball, like guards. We had a lot of great size. Anthony got hurt the year we won the Big Ten. He came back the next year, and although it added some size to it, it also added some new dimensions, and that we had to kind of work through just from a chemistry perspective. But it was just another. We had another great season. We won 26 games, both of those years, that sophomore, junior year. Then the senior year, Doug got hurt toward the middle of the season. We had a couple other injuries, but for the most part, those were just great players to play with. And they all had an attitude where they came to work every day. We supported one another. And of course, you can never leave out great teams without great coaches. Coach Henson did a great job. Really, he was a great defensive coach. That's where we won a lot of our games at. And of course, Coach Nagy, early on, Coach Yates was there a year with us, but Coach Nagy and Coach Collins were just great support people. They worked us hard every day in practice. They motivated us. They challenged us. And they supported us, when we went on the floor. So preparation was a big part of our game then, and so we were in a lot of games that went down to the wire. And when they go down to the wire, you need people that you can count on to do their part. And that means sometimes, setting a pick, getting a rebound. It's not always about scoring. Um, And so we had that throughout my 4 years there. It was just a great time. Of course, there was a lot of great games through that time. We played a 4 overtime against Michigan in Champaign, and I remember after that 4 overtime game, uh, Coach Crow ran us over to the weight room. It was probably about 4 below 0. I played all 60 minutes, and he said the reason I played the 60 minutes is because of the weight room. And we ran over and spent 15 minutes running through circuits after that game. And so there's a lot of things that go on off the court, in the weight room, in the film room, that are a part of making great teams. And all of the players embrace those things. So that was a great year, a great team. We had great games. Of course, the Kentucky game we lost, and then there was a few other games out there in Indiana. We always had some great matchups with them, and Minnesota had some. Randy Brewer. I remember my freshman year we played at Minnesota. They beat us, but I remember it was about 15-0 before we realized, man, that is probably the loudest arena in the Big Ten. Was Williams Arena back then. And it was just, it was a great experience with great coaches, great teams, great atmosphere, and of course, great fans.
Yeah. Um,
Incredible experience. But all of the gyms in the Big Ten, they just had great fans, great environments, and it was just a great place to play.
yeah. Where do you think that team stacks up? I don't know if you've uh, kept up here over the years, but you've got the Flying Illini team, you've got that 0-1 team that got beat in the final 8 by Arizona that had 6 guys foul out. That was a great team. Then you had obviously the 0-5 team this past year, making it to the final 8. Where do you think your team stacks up with all those teams?
I think, we had a great team. We could probably play with any of the teams in any era. I think the style of the game has changed, and I think early on we played a slower game. We were able to play a faster game. I think defensively, we could hold our own against any of those teams. I think they had, they were definitely quicker. Um, but we were probably a little tougher than in some areas. But overall, it would have been good. It would have been. I would have loved playing against them.
Right.
Um, it would
Um,
have been great playing against them. But it would have been. I think they were. I think the '05 team was probably the best team, and I think and then of course the '05 team, it really is just the way they were playing. I think the Flying Illini they were just at the top of their game, and I think they were, probably second best, second best,
No.
second best to probably I would go with the '05 team, then the Flying Illini, then us. But it would have been great to watch.
yeah.
I can tell you that.
Um, well, if you talked about coaching a little bit, I was going to have you real quick maybe talk a little bit about Coach Henson and what kind of relationship you guys had, and what kind of leader you thought he was, and things like that.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, I was in close contact or communication with Coach until he went home to be with the Lord. And Coach was he was a great leader because he was a very humble person. He was very truthful, very disciplined, and he was hard nosed. You look at Coach and you think, oh, he seems quiet, but Coach got after us in practice. He called us a lot of names when we didn't live up to what we were supposed to. I was a coward a few times, I think.
Yeah.
We needed more courage, and but he was somebody that showed up every day, and his love for the game, his love for kids. It was more than just basketball to him. He poured into our lives far after we were done playing basketball, but while we were playing, he always modeled what he expected, and that was for us to show up and leave it all up, leave everything we had on the floor. And his commitment to it was second to none, and his knowledge of the game was as good as anybody to have ever played it or coached it. So he was one of those unique people that comes along that's very humble, didn't like to be in the limelight a lot, but he was always prepared, and there was never a game that he thought we couldn't win, and that's the way he coached, and that's the way he lived his life. And so it was a blessing for me to have him in my life and to have been able to spend time with him. So
Right.
yeah, and of course, the rest of the coaching staff, Coach Nagy, Coach Collins, they were just his proteges. They followed his lead. They all had some different skills that they brought to the table and different things that they were good at. And as a coaching staff, they did them well together. And so they put together a lot of great teams.
Right. Yeah. Well, those years at Illinois, I guess I haven't asked you this yet, but obviously a great career. Anything stand out as far as maybe a favorite game in college or a favorite moment for you as a player while you were there at your 4 years?
Of course, the Indiana game, my sophomore year, the CBS game, we were playing for the Big Ten championship. Just if we could win that game, we was going to have a piece of it. And, I think I had 28 and 12 for 14. I missed maybe 2 shots the whole game. And just defensively shut down, Alfred. And it was just, we beat Indiana handily. And it was just, it was an amazing game. I remember, it like yesterday, just because it was a great atmosphere. We were anticipating winning the Big Ten. We got the number 2 seed that year. And so, I was co-player of the year that year. And that game was a kind of defining moment for us. We thought, we finally really, had achieved what we, had set out to.
Yeah.
So,
And Bobby Knight's sitting on your couch trying to recruit you, and then 2 years later you're scoring 28 against him on CBS, so he's probably not liking that very much, right?
yeah, no, he didn't. We had a couple run-ins with Katie and Bobby after a couple games. I hate to tell you that Gene chased a couple of our players into the locker room.
Oh my!
Beat Purdue by 21 game in Champaign. So yeah, those guys could get hostile, man.
Yeah, grown man chasing kids for the other team. That's not very sportsmanlike.
It's not. But in the heat of the moment, man, anything happen.
Well, you want to talk like real quick about it says here like you did play for a bit for Sacramento. And,
Yeah, sure.
Maybe talk about what that was like for you to play in the NBA for the Sacramento Kings.
Oh yeah, that was a great experience. Actually, I spent the first half of that season in Sacramento. I started 2 games actually, but it was a great experience. Every level, the game gets faster. I got drafted in the 3rd round, went up to Sacramento, had a chance to play there. In the NBA, it's really finding the right team. And Sacramento was a good team. Of course, we wasn't a good team. I mean, that was part of the challenge, is being on a losing team. But it was a great experience. Eddie was there. Eddie took me under his wing and kind of showed me the ropes there. And I got to play against, Magic, Kareem, the Doc, Bird, Mike, all those, great players. Dr. J's last year. So it was great. Being around. And then, of course, I spent a little time at Cleveland and a little time at Golden State over the next couple of years. And then God had a calling on my life. And so things started to change for me after I spent a couple years. I had opportunities to go overseas and pursue some other opportunities to play basketball. But right at that time in my life, it was just, my purpose was becoming clear that basketball was just, to to strengthen me and help me, but it wasn't my purpose. And my purpose, of course, was to serve the Lord Jesus and Christ and to be in ministry, and that's what I really loved. And playing basketball really prepared me for all of that. And so the NBA, I tell people all the time, in the NBA, the game is so much faster. In a timeout in college, we'll call timeout, 10 seconds left in the game. You got one play. We got a minute. When they get through, we might talk about that one play the whole minute and really never, we may develop it. In the NBA, they call a 20-second timeout, and we make 4 adjustments. We're no longer double teaming from the ball, but we're double teaming from the weak side. We're no longer, when we come down, running a pick and roll to the strong side, but we're running a pick and roll to the weak side, and we're flaring out looking for the jump shot instead of rolling the big man to the basket. All of that will happen in 20 seconds. Mm-hmm. And of course, we practice during the week, but the adjustments that you make in the NBA versus the college is like night and day. And so, but it was a great experience for me. I got to meet a lot of great players, build some good relationships, and help really develop me as a person and as a player and as a leader. And to me, it's always about character. What Coach Henson helped me develop, with Coach Collins, Coach Nagy, all of my teammates, was really just the kind of character that my mother and my father and my brothers and sisters had really poured into me in my early ages. I don't want to leave out my wife, who I grew up with at Quincy High, cheerleader, who supported me all along, went to Illinois with me as well, and then we married after we graduated there. But I mean, all of these people that poured into my life to bring me to this purpose that really God had called me to, and to be able to have journeyed along that path to get to where God wanted me to be was just a blessing. So Illinois is just a great place to go to school. It's a great place to play sports. It's a great place to be a part of it. So I'll always be grateful to the university and the privilege and opportunities that it provided me.
Yeah, that's great. You touched on it a little bit, but do you want to maybe talk about what you've been up to here since? I mean, you've already talked about it, but being a pastor and things like that. But do you want to maybe elaborate a little bit on that? Let people know what you've been up to since your career, has winded down in the NBA and everything.
Sure. I mean, well, yeah, I pastor a church up here in Plainfield. When I quit playing, I actually coached a little bit at a women's program at Kendall College. They started a program and asked me to kind of start their program there, and I did that for about 2 years. And during that time, I hooked up. God just had a calling on my life. To have a calling just means that there's something that's pulling at your heart that you just can't get away from. And so I, as God was calling me, moving me toward ministry, which is just working with people to bring a spiritual understanding into their life with a relationship with Christ. And so during that time of my life, there was something missing. And as God continued to call me, and as I started to seek him and follow him, it led me into a place where I became a youth minister at a Broadview Missionary Baptist Church, which I did for some years, and went to Moody Bible Institute. And then I came out and planted a church out here in Plainfield where I pastor. And, my heart and my love is for people. God didn't teach me how to pass the ball, or to give me a desire to assist to score baskets. But, as I've grown older, I realized that I didn't play basketball to make my name known, but I played it that, I might be able to make his name known. And so, through the years, basketball has always been a great starter for me to build relationships with people, to eventually help guide them into an understanding and a relationship with Christ. And so all those years of playing with people and building skills and relationships has just been a blessing as I've developed and grown in ministry and have the opportunity to pastor and to to love people and to help people through challenges, to encourage people to reach, higher heights, and to have faith that God loves us all. He has a purpose for us all, and he wants to have a relationship with us all. And it's not based on our performance. It's not based on how great we are or what, side of the tracks we're from, or what color we are. It really is just because he created us uniquely. And there's nobody like you, and there's nobody like me. And God doesn't want me to try to be you or you to try to be me, but he wants us to learn how to be free in who he created us to be as we grow in this relationship with him. And so I get the privilege of preaching and teaching that to people, and to trying to share the love of God with people along my journey in life. And so I'm just so grateful to my Savior, Jesus Christ, and just so thankful for the opportunities and privileges to all the people that have supported me along the way. But it led me to this place where I'm at today, which like everyone else, I'm still growing in my relationship, and I'm learning how to love people and how to forgive people, and how to be free in just who God created me to be. So that's what I'm up to today, John.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. My wife's going to love listening to this. She's got a very strong faith. So do I. We have a son who's 7, and we're trying to instill all those things in him. And we just feel very blessed and lucky to have found each other and have him. And so, that was great. Very well put. Speaking of my son, I usually finish these off by having him ask all the ball players on here a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Now, the only thing is he still awake? But I will find him here. If he's fallen asleep, I'll wake him up, because he knows he's supposed to ask. He knows he's going to ask you a question. So let's see here. He's up. All right, buddy. Can you tell Bruce hi?
Hi.
Hey, how you doing, partner?
Good.
Great.
Okay. You have a question for him?
What's your favorite NBA team?
Well, currently I would have to say probably the Lakers. That is probably my favorite team. I do like LeBron, his longevity. I like AD, but I'm a Kareem. I mean, I was a fan back in the old days. Kareem and Worthy and Wilkes and Pat Riley even. But I'm a Laker fan.
You tell him.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
All right, great. All right, well, yeah, thank you very much, man. This has been great. Great,
Yeah.
well thought out responses. And again, I love, the more of these I do, the thing that's awesome about all you guys is that everybody's got a different story on how you got to Illinois. Everybody's got a different story about what they're up to now. And it's just, I love listening to all of them. So, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I do. Listen, it's a joy and a pleasure to to chat with you. To have people that are interested in hearing our stories is just a blessing. I don't want to leave out. I got 4 sons. None of them played basketball at a higher level. Of course, my youngest son went to Illinois for football for a year until he transferred to uni. But there are 4 sons. I got 2 daughter-in-laws, and I have 7 grandchildren. And so I am blessed. Everybody, my sons are involved in ministry and serving the Lord. And my wife for 38 years and a couple of weeks has been just a support system and a person that God has yoked me up with, that we're growing to become one. But I wouldn't be where I'm at doing what I'm doing at the level I'm doing it without her love and her support and her encouragement through the years that were challenging, because we surely had challenging years. But what a blessing it's been to be with you this evening and to have all of them in my life, and they're all doing very well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great life, isn't it?
Oh man, you can't beat it, I tell you. It only gets better when we get to heaven, but I'm going to enjoy this life right here on earth for
Yep.
now.
Yep. All right. Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I'll I'll text you, let you know when it's getting ready to come out and everything like that. But um, yeah, thanks so much
Sure.
for coming on.
Yeah, no problem, John. Yeah, tell your family I said hello, and yeah, are you located in Champaign?
I am no, I'm about 40 minutes from there.
Oh, okay.
So I was actually I had like Marcus Griffin was kind of the first guy. Like I do have like a studio out here, but he actually drove to Champaign. I picked him up there and drove him here. We did it here in the studio, but so there's been a couple that have done that. TJ Wheeler came here too, but for the most part, I've been just doing them over Skype and things. So, but I mean, once the season rolls around, I mean, we go to Champaign all the time, so
Yeah,
we live
yeah,
out in the country a little bit. So yeah.
yeah. Well, sure. I'll let you know sometime when I'm coming down. Maybe we can try to have lunch or something. I
Yep.
try to get down to a game or two, every year. So we'll try to stay in touch. But yeah, no, man, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, I appreciate what you do and trying to share the stories and keep the legacy alive of Illinois and the basketball. It's a great history, great tradition, and we're going to get a national championship at some time in the future.
That's right. I agree. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks a lot, man. This has been great.
All right, no problem. You take
All right.
care.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. You too.
Yep. Good night.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye.